crazy on each other. But, hanging in there, just trying to stay safe and make the most out of it like everyone else, I think. What about you?
Yeah, we're doing the same thing, just trying to stay active with the workouts, and that's the main thing, staying fit. And then
Absolutely.
obviously busy with this podcast too, rolling through these interviews, and I'm just grateful to be at 566 episodes. So
Yeah, 566, a big number.
yeah, yeah. So like all my friends say that how did you get to this point? I say you just have to keep hustling, and I've done 6 episodes in one day before. So
Oh, wow. So you're no stranger to hustling. I'll say that.
yeah. So I just my first question to you, when did you get interested in like the reporting business and being with the news industry, and who was your biggest influencer in that?
Oh, good question. So I guess I first got interested in it in college. At first, I thought I wanted to do radio. So I tried a couple of radio internships, and then one of my professors inspired me to, try TV, try something new. It might be a little bit more challenging, but give it a try. And I took his advice, and then three internships later, I kind of just kept going and trying. And then I landed a job outside of college, and then News 12 was my second job, actually.
Hmm. So explain to me, what was your college experience like? What did you learn over there with the professors? And take me back to your first coverage in the news and first article that you wrote before going into your journey.
Oh, that's a good question too. So I guess my first news article I ever wrote was for a college newspaper. I went to Rider University. It's in central New Jersey, kind of near Princeton. And it was about germs on campus. I know, like, you look back and you kind of laugh because then we were worried about germs on campus.
Yeah.
Now you can only imagine the germs with coronavirus. But it was called Jousting with Germs, freshman edition or something like that.
Right.
So I just interviewed a couple of different students on campus and professors about how they were staying safe during flu season. And even though that story was super small, I kind of just realized, wow, I really like hearing other people's perspectives, meeting new people, getting that insight that maybe I didn't have before. So I just kind of kept going from there. And, you start really small and then it gets bigger and bigger, I think, as time goes on. I started on campus just writing for the newspaper, making, no money, just doing it on my spare time. And then I did 2 free internships, and then finally it led to a paid internship, and it just kind of goes on from there. So I guess that was my first experience with news, just being in college and writing for the newspaper, going around campus trying to get people to talk to me.
What college did you go to, by the way?
Yeah, it's Rider University.
Oh,
It's
Rider.
in central New Jersey.
Yeah. So I have a couple of friends that go to Rider.
Oh, really?
Yeah. My neighbor Sal goes there, and I have a couple other friends that go to Rider. And I interviewed a journalist from Rider University yesterday. Her name is Alexis Lynch, if you know her.
I don't think I know her.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, it's the school. It's small, but it's almost like one of those schools where it's small enough to recognize people every day, but it's also big enough where you could still meet so many new people that you don't know.
Yeah. So yeah.
Where are you from?
I live in Jackson, but 5 minutes away from Six Flags.
I'm actually going to Six Flags today, maybe.
Really? Oh, you're gonna cover
I'm
something?
thinking it.
You're gonna cover? Oh, you're just going there?
Yeah, I think I'm just going there. I have a season pass I haven't used pretty much the whole entire year.
Oh,
So
nice.
I think me and my sister might go.
Oh. Is it? I mean, I wonder what their protocols are. I'm just curious. What is Six Flags protocols during this COVID situation? But obviously, you got to wear a mask, right, during the rise or something.
Right. I haven't been there yet, but from what I was reading, you have to wear masks. You have to make an appointment online to go. You can't just show up. You have to have a scheduled appointment, have your temperature taken. And I'm pretty sure the lines, you have to, of course, social distance. And I think you may have to make a reservation for that as well. I'm not 100% sure, but definitely a lot of rules in place.
Yeah. So yeah, my neighbor said that Rider University is a great college, and all my other friends that go there, they say it's a great college. So, what would you say to all the students coming from high school and they're looking at colleges wherever they want to best fit? What would you tell them about Rider University?
Right. So, I mean, I guess I would say not just about Ryder, but about all the schools. It doesn't really matter where you go, but what you do while you're there. So, of course, you want to pick a school that's in a good location for you and maybe close to specific cities that maybe you're interested in interviewing in for, potential jobs or internships. But it's really about getting involved on campus. I mean, you could go to Harvard, but if you never step foot outside the campus or get involved on campus other than going to class, you may not really be getting that full experience. So I think when it comes down to picking a school, try to pick something that, makes you feel comfortable. It doesn't have to be the biggest name, but I think it comes down to what you can afford and also just the programs they have that you're going to take advantage of and get involved in. I mean, I was one of those people, I never really could sit still. So I wanted to join everything and just, try and see what I liked and didn't like and what I could learn. But even other people, I mean, I think campus is a great way to get involved because everyone's in the same boat. You're in college, you're studying for towards a specific major, you have specific goals, and other people I think are willing to help you out with those goals as well, especially if they have similar ones as you. So it's a really great experience, I think, just getting involved and interning as much as you can. That's like the main thing, I think, especially nowadays. Resumes, you have to have one, but since the internet is so popular, so many times people just look each other up on LinkedIn or
Yeah.
Twitter or their online portfolios. It's kind of more about that personal connection nowadays, I think.
Yeah, that's how I reach out to my guests. I reach out to my guests on all social media formats. So that's way.
Yeah, that's how you find me.
Yeah, yeah. So my next question to you is, speaking of colleges, are you concerned that they brought in the students way too early, especially for dorming, uh, especially during this tough time? Are you concerned with, obviously the COVID numbers are rising in schools and even colleges? Are you concerned about that? And do you think they made a bad mistake by moving in the students?
I wouldn't call it a bad mistake or a mistake in general. I think it depends, about where the school is located, how many students are on campus, and also just, I guess, the spaces they have them in. Specific schools are more spaced out, other schools are in more tight headquarters. So it kind of depends on, the situation depending on the schools. I think anyone that's dorming anywhere, of course you have to be careful because no one's ever lived through a pandemic like this. And, going away to college always has its risks because you're in such tight quarters, sharing showers, sharing bathrooms, sharing common spaces. So I think, it's a really tough time. You can't completely stop living your life. And I think going away to college is one of those things that, if it was in the cards for you, if you still have that opportunity and you can do it, you can't completely put your life on hold. But at the same time, it is important to, do what is best for you. If there are online options, do that. You can, maybe do half the semester in person and half at home, consider those options. But just kind of like, be as safe as you can while still doing everything you want to do necessarily.
Hmm. So taking back to the first time that News 12 the Bronx gave you the opportunity to come join their team, and how grateful are you that they gave you the opportunity, and what's experience like working for them right now?
Right. Honestly, I love News 12. I started in December of 2019. I actually got the job after my first station, Bios One News. I worked there for a little over a year and a half, going on 2 years. The station shuttered unexpectedly. So me and, over 150 of my colleagues all got an email saying that the company was shuttering and we had 3 months left to work. So it was just really stressful because nobody expects to be laid off in your 20s, let alone your first job. So it was definitely scary and it was stressful to try to find something that would fit my interests and what I wanted to do. So News 12 honestly was just such a blessing in disguise. When Bios was closing, I was so upset. I'm like, oh, where am I going to work? I don't know what I'm going to do. And I just, I applied everywhere, not just in the tri-state area. I applied to Florida. I applied to Ohio, California, Connecticut, all over the country. And it actually wound up, I got the job at News 12 the Bronx and News 12 Brooklyn. And it was nice because I've always grown up in New York, born and raised New Yorker, love the city, love the rush of New York, how fast paced things are. And everyone there was super welcoming. And it's just nice to be on a team that, they very much welcome you and they want you to feel comfortable. And no matter how many questions I had, I think everyone was willing to answer it. I know you know Pat O'Keefe,
Yeah.
our sports, yeah, our
I
sports reporter.
I
He's
had him
great.
I had him on my show a couple months back. So
Yeah, I actually reached out to Pat about it. Yeah, he's great. Really, really nice guy. But again, like just like Pat, you know, all the employees I met really welcomed me with open arms and helped me get to where I am now. And I'm still learning so much. I think all of us are. You know, every day you can learn something new and bring something else to the table. We have a lot going on with election day coming
yeah.
up, so
Yeah.
it should be exciting.
So what did he say when you reached out to him about my podcast?
Yeah, he told me that he was on it and that he, you know, enjoyed being on it. He said, "Oh, it was really, really nice to be on it. You should definitely do it." And he told me he shared our social media pages for support, so it was nice.
Yeah, so obviously in this generation, it's all about networking and connecting with people. And so, what's it like? Obviously, you just mentioned Pat O'Keefe and working with him, and also you work with your friend Shosh. Is it her name is?
Oh, Shosh, yeah. So
So,
me and Shosh actually go way back. We interned together at ABC in Manhattan. So we met interning. We both were in the Seven on Your Side investigative unit. So I've
hmm,
known her for a couple years now. And she worked in Alabama before News 12, and I worked at FiOS, and we both would just call each other all the time about our first jobs and, you know, different things that we experienced. And then I started at News 12 in December, and she started, I believe, I think it was around like, I think it was in the summer she joined. Yeah.
hmm. Yeah, so obviously, what's it like connecting with those Pat and your friend and Charles and the other people that you're working with right now? What's it like just learning from them and trying to become better as a reporter and getting advice from them, or you even giving advice to other people that work there too?
Right. I think it's nice because a lot of people have their specialized projects, but there's also a lot of opportunity to work on team projects. We do a lot of team coverage for different events, whether it be weather, election day, you know, specific investigative pieces. So it's nice to see what everyone brings to the table. Just, I think, you know, speaking with different people and hearing what they think and hearing their ideas, it helps you really brainstorm. So it's great. And honestly, there's so many people at News 12, whether you just got there or you're kind of a News 12 veteran, have been there for years, everyone's always very willing to get those new, fresh ideas and get moving. I think with news, it moves so fast paced that sometimes you don't have a second to stop and think for a minute just to kind of remember where we are. So it's nice to kind of talk to your colleagues and to see what they're up to and what you can do, what they can do to help you, what you can do to help them. Definitely very much feel like you're a part of a team, even though a lot of times, you know, you're working alone, especially with COVID. We're all split up all throughout the building, a lot of people working in the field, not really coming inside at all. So you haven't honestly seen a lot of your coworkers in months because of like the social distancing rules in effect between people working at home. It's been different. I mean, when you go from seeing people every single day to like, there are some of my coworkers I haven't seen
Hmm.
since March, you know, at all. They're working, I'm working, but it's just, you know, due to the pandemic, you have to try to stay as safe as possible. So thank God for social media, honestly. You can keep up with everyone, make sure you know what they're up to virtually.
Yeah, so before we get into what's going on right now in the news, but for you, obviously here in Jersey, we have a News 12 in New Jersey. Have you considered them also, or have you applied to News 12 New Jersey before the Bronx?
Yeah, so I'm actually working at News 12 New Jersey this
Oh,
Saturday and Sunday. So
oh,
I
nice.
do fill in with them
Yeah,
every once in a while too. Yeah, they're great over there.
yeah.
News 12 itself, they have a bunch of different offices. So they have Bronx, Brooklyn, New Jersey, Connecticut, Westchester, and Long Island. I think I named all of them.
Yeah.
And basically, you know, I'm a freelancer technically right now. So luckily, I have been getting a lot of work. So sometimes it feels like I'm full time because I'm kind of on the go all the time. But yeah, I pretty much fill in at News 12, the Bronx, Brooklyn, and New Jersey. Those are the three I fill in at. So all the stations have a little bit of a different feel to it, but overall, you know, you're still on the same team, still getting that hyper local news out. It's really exciting.
Hmm. Yeah, so I've seen obviously you've been covering a lot of news during this pandemic, and I've seen you cover outside in person. So how tough has it been working during this tough time? And also, obviously you got to wear a mask, and covering all these news outside too. But how tough has it been?
Right. I think the first time I ever did a report with a mask on, I kind of like was running out of air. I had to get used to it. It's very difficult to, do a long report and to talk and to memorize and to do all these different things, to interview people with the mask on. It took a while to get used to it. But after a while, it just becomes second nature, like anything else. You get used to it, you get comfortable, and you realize, I need to wear this to keep me safe. So whenever I do any interviews, I always have the mask on. Same thing with, if we're doing our live reports and there's people around me that I can see that are close by, I'll put the mask on. The only time I really take it off is if I'm in like a location where no one's around me, like I'm just me out there, because it is easier to talk and it's a little clearer to understand what I'm saying.
Right.
And sometimes with the news too, I think it's important to kind of see the expression on people's faces. I know for little kids, especially in school, that was one of the biggest concerns, because little kids read off your facial expression. They can tell if you're mad, if you're upset, if you're happy based on your face. And when you can't see that because of the mask, it makes it kind of difficult to get the tone out of, how you're feeling or what's going on. So that's a little challenging.
Yeah, so I don't really talk about politics, but I just have to ask you this. How important is it to, obviously I voted already and a lot of people have voted, but how important is it to vote, especially during this tough time? And today's an important day because the last debate is tonight with Trump and Biden, but how important is it to vote right now?
Right. I mean, I think it's always important to vote, whether it's this year or other years. Always important to share your voice. Your vote is your voice. If you're over 18, I think it's just kind of part of your due diligence to kind of put your input in, no matter where you live, what you believe, who you're rooting for. Just get out there and vote. I mean, every vote matters. And also it just shows, you're living in this country. If you want change, the only way to see it is to participate, to do something about it, to get out there and at least cast your ballot. That's, I think, the least you can do. So, I mean, I definitely plan on voting. If they do have the early options, so I know they've been talking about, I may vote early, or I might just go election day, wake up in the morning just for the thrill of it. I don't know. There's something like voting on election day that's kind of special. Especially, this is only my second election I'll be voting in ever, because the first one, back in 2016 I voted in, and I was in college, so I drove home to New York just to vote. So it'll be it'll be an interesting day, a long day. I bet there's going to be coverage all night.
Yeah, so I'm sure that, excuse me, I'm sure that you'll be covering the debate tonight. So what do you expect from these two, Biden and Trump? Obviously, they're going to go at it. What do you expect especially the last day and before they get ready for the November election? What do you expect from both of them?
I think this is really their last chance, both as politicians, to capture that audience's attention that they want. It's their last chance to, prove what they stand for, say what their plans are, what they're going to do, and why they're best for the job. So I think regardless, what either candidate says, this is really the last straw. After tonight, so many people probably will make up their minds and it's going to stick with them for who they're going to vote for. And also, this is the last chance to sway anyone's opinions that maybe are in the middle. Those swing states, especially, a lot of voters there always are kind of unpredictable. You don't know which direction they're going to go in. I do think it's really important that they're turning the mics off tonight. I think that's a really good idea, because last time you couldn't hear what anyone was saying.
Right.
So I think that's good. Everyone has their 2 minutes. Let them have their 2 minutes, and then you have your 2 minutes. And I think that's the most fair way to go about it, because last time it was kind of a mess, to be honest. You couldn't really get a clear understanding of what either candidate was saying, because they kept interrupting each other.
Yeah, I mean, it should be interesting to see what happens tonight. But I just want to get your reaction to this with Trump, obviously, with the COVID situation, and he's back being back after 2 days. What was your reaction to that? And was there any concerning with him with that situation?
With him returning to the White House, you're saying?
Yeah.
Right. So we did a lot of coverage with President Trump when he had coronavirus, and I think certain things were surprising to everyone. When he took his mask off, when he returned to the White House, and when he saluted, and the cameras caught him taking his mask off to do that and entering the White House maskless. I think, of course, it's a little shocking, but at the same time, I think you also have to realize that COVID is so unknown right now. He has the best doctors in the world, some say, taking care of him, or in the country taking care of him. So it's shocking when anyone gets coronavirus, but I think when you realize the president got it, it really made it feel real, because it shows, there's no limits this virus has. It can get
Right.
you big, small, young, old, no matter who you are. No one is big enough or strong enough to, be immune to this virus necessarily, or be, I guess, not able to transmit it or to get it or to spread it. So it was just shocking. The whole thing was shocking. I mean, I'm happy that he's okay. I'm happy that he made a recovery, and the first lady as well.
Mhm.
But it just goes to show you a lot of people didn't when this virus first came out. Thousands and thousands of people died.
Yeah.
So it's something to remember, that although it's still spreading, you still can get it, and you could have a completely different reaction. I mean, luckily, doctors now know how to treat the virus better than they did when it first came out in March and April. But at the same time, it's still very dangerous. You just never know how your body's going to react to it.
Right. So I want to get to another important topic, the social injustice, and what can, obviously, the protests. A lot of people have done protests and other things, speaking out. But as a reporter, and I'm sure you guys covered this also with the social injustice. But what can all of us do as a community to make this thing better and stop this horrible situation from happening, and other than protesting?
Right. So I think protesting is kind of that first step that a lot of people are taking, because they feel, one, I think a lot of people had cabin fever, being cooped up in the house for months and months with COVID-19. I mean, as a reporter, it was kind of a shock, because we were all, not working or working from home. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't go outside. You couldn't go to the store. You couldn't, go to the movies, get on a plane. You couldn't do anything you normally did, go to the gym. But then all of a sudden, one day, there were just thousands and thousands of people in the middle of New York City. And I was shocked. This first, nobody wanted to leave their houses, everything shut down. And then everyone's outside, not social distancing, super close to one another. It was shocking. But at the same time, you understand the reason people are outside. There's a reason they're marching. They're not doing it necessarily to contract the virus or to spread anything, but they thought there was a bigger issue at hand, and they wanted to go out there and make their voices heard, especially to those elected officials that these protests are getting attention from. They knew the media would report on it. They knew these elected officials would have to kind of, in a way, get involved or make a comment, or at least acknowledge what's going on. So I think in a way they felt this is what they needed to do to get their voices to be heard, and to let elected officials know there's a problem going on in society, especially, throughout this nation right now. I think after protesting, what everyone is hoping is that the people in office do what the people want, make changes to laws, reform specific programs, and just really do something that they're not doing right now.
Yeah. So my next question to you, what advice would it give to these young kids or young reporters that are trying to be in the same field as you, and that are trying to be like news anchors? I know it's a tough gig sometimes, but what would you tell them to expect when getting into this field that you're in right now?
Right. That's a good question. I would say the biggest thing to expect, which is going to sound cliche, but expect the unexpected. You never know where your day is going to take you, or your night's going to take you. This isn't a traditional 9 to 5 job. This is a job where you're going to be working long hours sometimes, coming in really early, coming in the middle of the night, working late, working holidays. There's a lot of sacrifices that you do have to make, I think, in order to really, survive in the news business, and also just to really get the full effect of it. If you worked a 9 to 5 normal shift every single day, I don't think that would be reality, because the reality is if something happens, you have to be there.
Right.
You have to report on it. You have to get the facts, get the information, interview people that were there. And you just sometimes don't know when your day is going to end. So I think it's really important to remember when you do enter this field that there are some sacrifices you will have to make. And it's not always this glamorous thing. I mean, some people think, oh, you're on TV and you have your hair person, your makeup person. I do my own hair and makeup. I buy my own clothes. I shoot my own stuff most of the time. Nowadays, since everyone's gotten so tech savvy, most of the time you're the person behind the camera, in front of the camera, writing and editing and producing, doing everything. And the stakes, I think, are a lot higher since you are that one person taking on multiple roles. You have a lot more responsibility, a lot more pressure riding on your shoulders, but it is rewarding. That's one thing I think I've always thought from the beginning. The work is extremely rewarding. The long days, the long hours, the holidays. I wouldn't change it for the world. I mean, of course, sometimes, like any job, you feel a little bit burnt out or you feel tired or certain things frustrate you. But at the same time, you're doing what you love every day. You're helping people. You're getting that voice out that wasn't heard before your report. So I think it's really important to just, this is something you want to do, to go for it. Network. LinkedIn message people that you aspire, that you look up to, that maybe you aspire to be in their role one day. Most people are actually really willing to help you. I think that's the biggest misconception. So many people think, oh, it's so competitive, which it is. It's competitive like any industry. But at the same time, you have so many people that were once in your position. I don't think you're ever too big to be a nice person.
Yeah. So I'm just curious. Are you allowed to be back in the studio?
So we are allowed back, but it's very limited capacity. So the newsroom does not have everyone that was once working in it at all. If you are in the studio, it's kind of I guess a rare exception, and it's very, very, strict. So you're in for your report, you're social distancing, you're sitting very far apart from whoever you're working with. Masks are required while you're in the building. The only time you're allowed to take your mask off is if you're in the studio doing your report, and then right after you're off camera, mask back on, move away. And just the working environment is very different. They even have specific entrances that some people have to enter, specific bathrooms you have to use. Like, they really, really are doing everything they can to keep everyone safe and to hopefully stop the spread of this virus.
Yeah. So before we get to the next segment of my show, I have a couple other friends that do podcasts also. So I'll send you a couple of my friends' podcasts. You can check it out. And there's this,
Cool.
yeah. So there's this one you should definitely check out. He's 14 years old. His name is Global Kid Media Vedant. He's interviewed 1,000 people, and he's trying to be the first sideline kid reporter. So what do you think of the idea of having kid reporters now, and not only sports, but maybe news anchors as kids or on the sidelines?
Yeah, I mean, listen, like, you're never too young to get your foot in the door and to get started. If this is his passion, doing podcasts, I think it's great that he's, getting involved and at such a young age, learning how to grow a following. That's one of the biggest things nowadays, having people that support you, that want to listen to your content, that give you fresh ideas. So obviously it looks like he's going to have a really bright future. I think he should keep doing what he's doing. And also, I think this will be a great way to get yourself in the door for colleges and for internships in the future. And honestly, he should, I guess, start building his network now. It sounds like he already has some goals in mind based on, like you said, he's done over 1,000 episodes. So I'm sure he knows a decent amount of people. Sounds like he's on the right track, definitely inspiring.
Yeah, so I'll send you his page so you can check that out, and my other friend's podcast you can check out. So I'll send you maybe like up to like 8 to 9 people's podcasts so you can check out.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta, again, spreading the word, networking. I'm sure you would want them to do the same for you.
Yeah, so you ready for this? I do this fun little segment with all my guests pretty much that come on the show. It's called the rapid fire segment. So you ready for this?
Sure.
All right. Favorite food?
Pizza.
Favorite music?
Pop.
Hip hop. Oh, favorite hip hop artist?
Oh no, pop.
Oh, hip hop. Okay. Oh, hip hop?
Pop.
Oh, pop. Favorite pop artist.
Ooh, Maroon 5.
Okay. So what was your most memorable news that you covered so far in your career?
Ooh, my most memorable story?
Yeah.
Um, I guess it had to be when I was at my old station, 501 News. We did this special at Newark Airport.
Oh,
And basically, all the kids, they went to the airport and they thought they were getting on a flight to the North Pole, quote unquote. And it was their first time ever boarding a flight. Most of these kids had spent their entire year in the hospital.
oh wow.
And it was their first time going to the airport, leaving the hospital with their families, and getting on a plane. And this plane, it actually, I went on board with them. It was completely decorated in all
Hmm.
holiday decorations. There were cookies, there were people singing Christmas carols, watching Christmas movies, and it took off. So for an hour, and I think it was an hour and 45 minutes, was flying around like in the air, and then it landed right back at Newark Airport at a different terminal. So when kids got off, they went into this terminal, which they thought was the North Pole, and it was completely decorated as if you were in the North Pole. You know, there were presents, there were Santa Claus, there were all these superheroes there, Elsa from Frozen. So it was just so cool to see, this organization get a bunch of kids that have had a really rough year health wise, been
Yeah.
stuck in the hospital, and they were able to go on this amazing flight completely for free. And just the looks on their faces was priceless. It was such a cool experience.
Yeah. So how are those kids doing now as we speak?
I mean, honestly, I wish I knew. That's one thing about the stories that sometimes it's really tough. You don't always get to know what happens after it. I mean, of course, many times you do if it's a specific decision in court, or if it's something legal or a big announcement that you're waiting to make. But for a story like this, it was so generic. There were so many children involved that you don't really know what their life is like right after you shoot your story. Of course, you always try to stay in touch with specific sources and have your cards and exchange numbers and emails, but it does get difficult sometimes to kind of keep track of what everyone's doing. So I think that's something I personally want to be better at, and I think other people do as well, because we meet so many people every day. But it would be nice just to keep tabs on people and to see what they're doing and where they are a year from now or 6 months from now, because their situation could have, changed significantly for the better or for the worse. And both of those outcomes could be, potential stories, or even just nice to hear. You always want to hear what people are up to, especially if they're doing well.
Yeah. So what was your most toughest news to cover?
I would say, honestly, my toughest news to cover really had to be like this year. I mean, the COVID-19 pandemic, um, that was just, it was insane. I mean, I think forever we are all going to be, one day telling the next generation about these days, about living with masks, how everything got shut down. I mean, the whole world is really just on hold right now until we get a vaccine. And it's just so scary. So, living through a pandemic, and then also living through just all these protests we're witnessing. We're witnessing history every single day when people were outside for the Black Lives Matter movement, going through the streets. It really just was eye opening. So I think both of those two movements, the Black Lives Matter movement and the COVID-19 pandemic, had to be the toughest stories to cover. It was very challenging, and it's just a lot of unknowns, because obviously there's a lot of issues going on in this country right now, social justice issues, but also this pandemic. Like, this virus is deadly and it's airborne and it could affect anyone. So it's been very difficult to just kind of even go on with your life. Like, people are like, okay, like what about everything else? What about, normal crimes or fires or the fun stories you guys used to do? And like, of course, like, things are starting to get back to normal. We have more of a variety of topics, but at the same time, you can't ignore that it's still a pandemic, and there are still a lot of protests, and the Black Lives Matter movement is still going on. So those two topics, definitely the hardest I've ever had to report on, and it's not over. It's just gonna keep going with the coverage. So we'll see where this year goes. I'm hoping it ends on a lighter note, but it's unexpected right now.
Yeah, I'm hoping we get a vaccine by next year. That's the goal. Hopefully by next year we get a vaccine for everyone. And But my next question to you, I know that you don't cover sports, but that you have Pat O'Keefe there for sports. But have you done any coverage with Pat O'Keefe, like working with him, covering the Yankees? Because since you being from the Bronx, so the Yankees are big in the Bronx too. So I'm a big Yankee fan myself, and obviously we came up short this year. But have you done any coverage with Pat O'Keefe on the Yankees or?
No, I haven't. Actually, part of the reason I was so excited to get the job at News 12 of the Bronx was because, of course, home
Yeah,
of the Yankees, Yankee Stadium. I grew up going to games every year, like even last year, I bought my dad Father's Day tickets there. We had great seats.
all right. Yeah.
My family always goes to Yankees games. We're big fans in my house too. I haven't worked with Pat at all. It's kind of his thing. There's a couple of sports reporters that primarily cover the Yankees. I'll leave it to him. He's a pro and is in good hands with his coverage. But yeah, I mean, normally I think when it isn't a pandemic, they do have, generic reports outside Yankee Stadium for, opening day or the playoffs or really, really big games just to get the reaction from fans, which I was excited to do. Didn't get the chance to this year, obviously, because people weren't allowed inside the stadiums to watch.
Yeah.
But, listen, I think next year, hopefully, if this vaccine comes, there's going to be even more people, even more energy coming to the stands, coming to the games, bringing all of that excitement that they've been holding in for a whole year.
Yeah.
So it should be fun. I think next year, me and Pat will be able to do a little back and forth if I wake up really early one morning before he comes in and maybe interviews people before they go to the game. But he's great. He's great. We have such a great sports team. And I give them a lot of credit because for a while, there was no sports. Everything was like on hold, shut down. Nobody knew what was happening. So those guys really work to still somehow bring some kind of sports angle to the broadcast every day, which is challenging because sometimes like there's no news and you have to figure out what the news is, what the news story is. And they did a great job at finding that
out. So outside of being a reporter, what else do you like to do?
Oh, I love to go on vacation.
Yeah.
Sad, everything's closed still, but whenever it's really safe to travel, I'm getting on a plane and I'm going somewhere, hopefully like a nice tropical island or something, or Europe. But yeah, I'm a very big traveler. I love going on vacation. I enjoy going to the Jersey Shore, the beach. I like Atlantic City. I love going to concerts. Big dog lover. I have a corgi.
Oh, nice. I have a golden doodle.
Oh, I love golden doodles. Yeah, big dog person. And just, I don't know, just doing little things. I love trying new restaurants, things like that, staying busy. I don't really like to stay in the house often. So when the pandemic first started and they were like, everyone stay in, of course I listened because I'm not going to, take a giant risk. But I was definitely getting bored really quickly. It was like the first 2 days. I'm like, oh, now what? What do we do?
Yeah. Oh, since I have you on here, speaking of restaurants, obviously some of these restaurants are back to indoor and outdoor. But do you know any update? I know it's too early, and Governor Murphy has not announced anything yet for the indoor, some other restaurants. But do you have any updates? Especially when it comes to the winter time, obviously people don't want to sit outside. But do you think the restaurants will be able to go back to indoor by the time December hits?
It's a tough question, tough decision. I mean, I think everyone hopes so. They hope that's going to be possible, but who knows if it really is. And I think you're going to see a big decrease in outdoor dining when the cold weather comes, because let's be honest, I don't think anyone likes to sit outside in the cold during the winter for a long period of time. And the food gets cold very quickly. Even if you do have heaters, they're still always, it's not the same. I don't think people want to sit with jackets on. So I think people are going to try to make it work, especially, the elected officials and Governor Cuomo is monitoring all the COVID clusters in the city. And, Governor Murphy's looking into the COVID clusters in New Jersey. Right now, lately, New Jersey has had more COVID cases than New York City, which some people were surprised about, but some people weren't. Because let's think about it. The summer, a lot of people go to the Jersey Shore. A lot of people go away to their second homes in New Jersey. And New York was really on lockdown for a long time. And I think some people that were angry or upset that New York was on lockdown just went to those nearby states, Connecticut and New Jersey, where things weren't necessarily all locked down yet.
Right.
And that's how things started spreading. Um, so I've been indoor dining a little bit. Like of course I primarily outdoor dine, but I tried indoor dining for the first time in New Jersey and also in the city once. And I did feel safe. I felt like everyone working in the restaurants really did take precautions and they were careful about everything. I felt safe. I think I would do it again. But at the same time, I think when winter comes, it's also more nerve-wracking because people are saying that it spreads more in the cold weather. It spreads more indoors. So I don't know. I really don't know if December it's going to be possible, but I think it's really going to impact businesses, whether it's possible or not. That decision is going to be huge because if restaurants can only outdoor dine, I think they're going to be hit really hard.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. I'm hoping they can go back to indoor by December, but we have to wait and see. So before I let
Right.
you go, yeah. So before I let you go, this is the last thing. I always end the show like this. Would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and essential workers? Because I feel like they deserve everything. Other other than other people, they deserve everything. They deserve a pay raise, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, I think our healthcare heroes, they were on the front lines from the beginning and they hold such a big responsibility. They're the reason so many people have survived. They're the reason so many families were able to be taken care of during this pandemic, have been able to get treatment when they were sick with COVID, and they continue working. I mean, like I said, every single day there still are new cases that come up, and there's still the virus that's spreading all throughout the country. And I know so many nurses that have left their own families to quarantine to keep their family safe, or that have helped out throughout the country in different states that really, really needed it. I mean, at one point, Miami was one of the top COVID spots in the country, and their ICU unit was overflowing with patients. So, as a result, I know several people that flew down there to help out as nurses and doctors and different healthcare professionals. So, they deserve all the credit in the world. Absolutely. This is the toughest time to be working in I think history, and they really continue to bring everything they have every single day. So they deserve all the credit in the world, and I'm very thankful that they continue to go into work every day with a positive attitude and continuing to keep all of us safe during this pandemic. So all the appreciation for the nurses, the doctors, the healthcare workers, EMTs, everyone, and also law enforcement, first responders, firefighters, everyone like that as well.
Yeah, especially what's going on in California right now with the wildfires. It's really crazy. And I actually have a friend from New Jersey, my friend Shane. He's part of the fire department, and he's in California right now helping out with the wildfires. So I told him, man, keep up the great work. You guys are such inspirations. And I told him, I told my friend that you guys are warriors for doing this. It's a dangerous job,
They
and
are.
yeah,
No, they absolutely are. I mean, that's another crazy thing, all the wildfires. You're like, sometimes I stop and I think, can we handle anything else? Can this year get any worse? And now they just made the announcement. I mean, as small as this is, the Charlie Brown
uh,
specials, they have
yeah.
Charlie Brown Thanksgiving special and the Christmas special. As small as that is, they're not airing this year
What?
because Apple
Oh,
TV bought them. So
oh wow,
they're not going to be airing.
man.
I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
this year just keeps going.
I mean, 2020 has been a disaster, and especially in the sports world, we lost a lot of legends, and hopefully next year we can have a positive year. But there it is.
I hope
Yeah, so there it is. This is episode 566 with News 12, the Bronx anchor, Marylyn Buckley. Thank you for joining me today. This has been an honor. You're such an inspiration. I'll be posting this on all social media formats so people see your story, and I'm sure we'll connect again soon. And I'll be tagging some of your coworkers, especially I'm going to be tagging Pat in here and your friend Sauce in here so they can see it. But thank you again for coming on, and you and your family stay safe.
you too. Thanks.
Thank you.